Welcome to Star Wars on High. Thank you for stopping by. We are back. What is going on, guys? Welcome to another week of videos. We have had so much to talk about recently, mainly with the High Republic due to the new wave of books releasing. We'll have our Fallen Star review later this week. I just finished it about an hour ago, so I have a lot of things to say there. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Book of Boba Fett. Now, I did a review for the first episode on the channel, which I'll link up here, but I've been doing reviews for episode 2 and 3 at the beginning of our weekly live streams. So if you guys haven't seen those, you've been ignoring those, the first like 30-40 minutes we do spoiler breakdowns of the episode where we talk through it, the three of us as a group, and I think I'm going to continue to do that until the finale, just because we already have that time slot on Thursday. I love to talk with, Ben and Jimmy, but also you guys about what you liked and didn't like in the episode. So it's kind of fun to do that live with a crew. So that's kind of my plan today. But first summary, let me give you kind of my overview of the show so far and how I feel. So I think episode 1 was a fine start. It was a little bit slow for me. I don't really think it set up. It didn't set up the hype very well for me in the first episode. I thought it was totally fine. I thought it was good. On second watch, I liked it even a little bit more. I think the second episode was fantastic. I think it was a really, really effective and great episode. I think the bar was very high in that episode. And then episode 3, to me, was like, it was a little bit better than the first episode. Had some things I didn't like. Had some moments I thought were good. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But overall, I think it's been a very solid show. I think as far as quality, it's right on par with The Mandalorian, especially season 1. I think these episodes have all been a little bit higher than the first, some of the latter half of the first season, The Mandalorian. I felt like some of those filler episodes weren't quite this good. So that's kind of a summary of how I feel. So far, so good. We have 4 episodes left, so a lot of things still can happen. I like the direction of the show, at least, so far. But if you guys have noticed, I'm sure, over the last couple weeks, there has been a lot of response to the show. Now, there's the usual suspects who are using a lot of this for their videos, right? Talking about how it's failing, how Disney has ruined this character. And as we all, I think, suspected, this was going to happen. When you take a character like Boba Fett, who has a legacy, who has such a fandom behind that, and we get a show that fans have been clamoring for, the negative kind of Star Wars side of YouTube, I think, was ready to look at this and find any problems and any gaps they can. Now, that does not mean anyone who has complaints about this show is not allowed to do so. As I've just said, so far, I've had some complaints with the show so far as well. And you can hear those in detail in my past videos. But there's been sort of this conversation, this dialogue, that the show has fundamentally changed the character of Boba Fett. It's a failure. It's not doing well. And it's got me a little puzzled. And I wanted to talk through it because I think the biggest complaint I've seen is that this Boba Fett does not line up with the Boba Fett that we know. Now, I'm going to preface this with the fact that canon representation of Boba Fett is very limited. We obviously have his appearance in The Empire Strikes Back, in Return of the Jedi, of course, young Boba in The Clone Wars. We've had some comic entries. I'm not sure how many fans have read the actual canon comics related to Boba Fett. I'm going to assume that's kind of a smaller section of the audience, because even I have not read all of the canon Boba Fett comics to this point, so I could be speaking out of tongue in relation to those. But I think the biggest complaint is that this Boba Fett is too soft, or some variation of that complaint is what I hear. The fact that he's being respectful and trying to be a little more talk first, shoot second, has kind of rubbed folks the wrong way. He seems a little too diplomatic, a little too kind than what we've been led to believe was this silent kind of assassin. In fact, there was a post on the Star Wars Reddit this week that blew up, basically saying The Mandalorian is a better Boba Fett show than Boba Fett, which we'll get to in a second. But I think what this show is trying to do is pretty clear. Boba Fett has had this legacy from the loss of his father to his young, years in youth, growing up surrounded, running in dark packs, running in with other bounty hunters, grew up really in hard times until his eventual demise in Return of the Jedi, where, he's doing a job, gets humorously, I hated the scene, but it does get knocked to the side into the sarlacc pit and left for dead. And we're seeing, I think, a life change, a view change here for this character. I believe that's what all of the flashbacks to this point have been built around. We're seeing this character who was left for dead, is literally being digested, has to escape, is beaten by Jawas, his armor's taken, he's walked through the desert, enslaved by Tuskens. He then, in a twist, becomes part of the Tusken culture, learns with them, spends some time rehabilitating, and then eventually tries to lead them on a path of a path forward, a path for their betterment, and they end up being murdered. And I think what we've seen, what these events are supposed to be showcasing, is where this shift in Boba Fett has come from. Because in my personal opinion, and feel free to disagree with me down below, just because Boba Fett might be one of the coolest, best bounty hunters in the galaxy does not mean he necessarily is an emotionless killer, right? The idea, I believe, of this show is that Boba Fett does have a code. He has this honor. He has his ability. We saw this a little bit in episode 3 where Chrysanthemum is sent to attack him and he lets him go, basically saying, it's not personal. Don't take jobs from bad folks or you'll end up in this situation. And I think it just demonstrates something about Boba Fett, which is he was very effective at his job. He's very good at his job, but I think he's tired of his old way of life. I think he's had these traumatic experiences that have caused him to refocus, readjust, and change his trajectory. And mind you, what he's going into is sort of, I'm going to be a crime boss, but I'm going to do it the way I think it should be done. I'm going to try to recruit people based on respect. I think that'll give me more loyalty. I'm going to try to, gain some ground with the locals, which is what we saw with the Power Ranger crew from the last episode. I'm going to get my foothold. The idea that he's soft or that he's a wuss, I think is demonstrated not to be true based on his response to the folks trying to oppose him. He's not backing down from anyone. He's not backing down from the Hutts when they came. He wasn't backing down from the mayor. So to me, he's still he's literally training a Rancor to ride into battle. This is still a hardened, effective killer. I think he's just changed his approach. And to me, yeah, there are moments where it could feel like he's soft. We don't know the Fennec Shand backstory yet. I'm sure we're going to see how they met. But what the show is doing through these flashbacks, through these character development moments, is trying to, I think, show us why he is where he is today. And so I would just say a couple things. First of all, we need to give the show more time. There's 4 episodes left, and there could be so many things that happens in 4 episodes. I mean, so many kind of awesome or more explanatory moments to help iron the kinks out for the folks who have concerns. But I also want to say, in a lot of ways, I think this is the Boba Fett story we're always going to get. Boba Fett is the silent killer at the peak of his career. I don't think the time has passed, right? I think that show doesn't exist anymore. The actor, obviously closely related to the character, Tamir Morrison, who played Jango Fett. Of course, this was the last time they could make a show with him, and he's in his 60s, late 50s now. And so seeing a more refined, a more aged Boba Fett just makes sense. I mean, of course, we could get like a John Wick style Boba Fett show, which I'm sure would be very fun. But at the end of the day, the John Wick movies are very much just action, eye candy, good, great times at the theater. And I don't think that's what Disney wants to make. Now, I understand that might be what the fans want, but if you're Disney and you have a streaming platform and you want to release a multi-episode adventure with your character, this is doing a lot more to establish who this man is behind the mask. And so I want to see where this plays out. I'm willing to give it a chance. Now, that's not to say if you've had problems with it so far. I've heard a lot of people say, Boba Fett isn't a good guy, and this show certainly makes him look like he is a decent guy. And I don't totally agree with that perspective, as I think I've made the point leading up to, but I'll just reiterate here. We don't know a ton about Boba. Yeah, he might have been a bounty hunter, the best it's ever been, the most fearsome, but just business. I mean, he has obviously a code and a standard of conduct. His father, Jango, seemed to have, definite respect. He wasn't just a murderous killer. He did his job. He, fought. But from what I could see, he didn't really do anything that would make him think he's a scoundrel. Obviously, he wanted a clone to raise as his son. And we see this young Boba in the flashbacks looking towards his father. He loved his father. So he had a support system growing up. It wasn't like he grew up with no one ever loving him or caring for him. Of course, he had to learn how to be his own man after the death of his father and had that sort of hardening towards the world. But this character is far down the line from that and has seen so many things and experienced so much death, destruction, heartache. He wants to change. He wants to be a crime lord boss still. He still wants to be the leader of the underworld, but do it the way he thinks is right. And I want to see how they continue to justify that turn with us in the next couple episodes. And I don't think necessarily it's the wrong move, but just kind of my thoughts on the situation. Let me know what you guys think down below. I know the last episode had the Vespa looking multicolored bikes that got a lot of response. I made a video on that in my live stream. The long and short there to me is that I thought the chase scene was too slow, so it made it look really goofy. And I think the bikes should have been a little dirtier, but overall I think kind of the blowback to that has been a little overblown as well. It was silly, it was goofy, but there also was a 50s diner in the prequels. I love the prequels. There's some goofiness in Star Wars. In fact, those kids, the cyberpunk crew, looked like they should be in Tatooine, or excuse me, in Coruscant instead of Tatooine. So maybe that's, an argument there. Maybe they recently moved. I don't know. But to me, that scene is an easy thing to point to, and it's gotten a lot of attention. But in reality, it's a couple minute scene in the episode and could have been filmed better. But overall, I don't think it breaks Star Wars or anything fundamental. But just my perspective on the matter. I really appreciate your guys' support. I hope you're enjoying all the new content. We are going to be rebranding our weekly live streams. We're going to get their own show name. So when you see the thumbnails, you know what's coming. So look forward to that a little bit later this month. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for your support. Make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you again very soon.